Hello again, America, and wherever you may be. It's me, Evan Grant, with the internet's most demanded YouTube video by a middle-aged, bald, fat dude talking baseball. You can't prove me wrong. Anyway, here we are with this week in Rangers baseball, y'all. As the season starts to wrap up, there are less than 10 games remaining in the season. For many of you, I think that they're probably coming with a thank goodness for that. There's just not a lot left to accomplish. Although watching games like like Tuesday night, in which Josh Young really did show some adjustments that he's worked on to try and kind of adjust his sights a little bit higher, pick a lane, is the way the Rangers like to describe it, identify pitches in that lane and not swing anywhere else. He held to that last night, held off some sliders from Robbie Ray, ended up with 3 hits, 2 of them homers, drove in all 5 runs, and the Rangers win. And this comes on the heels of an 0 for 20 slump that he had gone through. And so listen, he's still in his first 100 plate appearances as a major leaguer, and we can overanalyze this to death. But it does appear that this is a guy who is very studious about hitting, does like information, and does try to apply it. That's all you can ask for from the modern player. I think that what we've seen from modern players this year, and we're going to get into this a little bit, is that they're really good at taking data and breaking it down and the mechanical aspects of baseball. I still have questions about, in watching this team in particular, how instinctive they are. I think there's been a number of circumstances, and we can talk about errors and wild pitches and things like that stand out, and misplays and freezing of runners on bases when they need to be going and going when they don't need to be going. Those are all things that are really obvious, but there are other situations. Know the situation in the game. Know when it's important for you to get off your best swing. Know when it's important that you make contact. Know when it's important that even if you are going to the plate with an attack mode, that you know when maybe you've got to take a pitch or two, and extend your at bat a little bit. So these are the things that I think that the Rangers still, as they try and build a culture of championship, and I don't know how far they got on that this year. It's hard for me to really evaluate that, but as they try and build towards that, I think it's something that they need to address. Um, I think the best teams are still instinctive and play the game to win. They do what is necessary to win the game in front of them that night. Some of the percentages and probabilities be damned. They do what is necessary to get the game in hand. But if you want to talk about, look, being a good team over the course of 162 games and putting yourself in the playoff hunt, it comes down, as we sit here with over 150 games played, it comes down to 2 things, really. I mean, we can analyze stuff from here until next year, but old baseball people, you know what they say? It's about pitching and defense. And just some numbers here that back that up. The Rangers have been neither good as a pitching team or as a defensive team this year, and they're going to end up with 90 losses again. You go to the defensive runs saved metric, which again, I think that all these metrics can be helpful, but you don't want to get so swallowed up in them. I do think at the end of a year, you get a pretty good sense from defensive runs saved how well an overall defense is played. And let's just put it this way. Of the top 5 defensive run saved teams, according to Sports Info Solution this year, of the top 5 defensive run saved teams, they are the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Houston Astros, the Cleveland Guardians, and the St. Louis Cardinals. And as of this morning, Wednesday morning, as we film this, all 5 of those are division champions. They play good defense. They don't allow extra runs. They go to the playoffs. Of the top 12 teams in runs saved, 9 of those are in playoff, in holding a playoff berth as we move to the last week of the season. So it's simple, guys. Play defense. Give yourself a chance to win, and don't beat yourself. Head to head, let's look at the Rangers and Seattle series, because I think the Seattle series really epitomizes the Rangers year, full of close games, full of blown leads, full of Rangers' inability to make plays offensively and defensively when they needed to late in games. And Seattle is 12-5 against the Rangers this year. I believe 8 of those games have been decided by 2 runs or fewer. And in 8 of those games, the Rangers led. In 5 of those 8 games, the Rangers led at some point in time. They've led these games. Seattle has done what it's needed to stop the Rangers from adding on. And the Mariners have either gotten to Rangers pitchers as they go, the Rangers starters as they go the third time through the order, or they've taken advantage of the weaker part of the bullpen. And in some cases, the weaker part of the bullpen for a large part of the season extended to the closers and the high leverage guys, and the Mariners did that in June and July. And so Seattle has a total of 30 runs saved, according to Sports Info Solutions. The Rangers are number 22 in the majors, with 1 run saved overall. 29-run difference. You know, you apply that to the series, probably changes a handful of games. Mariners are not on the brink of their first playoff berth in 21 years. The Rangers are closer to where I think they should have been, which is about a 75-win team. Right now, they'd have to, as we tape this on Wednesday morning, they'd have to win out to get to 80 to 75 wins. More likely, they're going to lose 90 for the 3rd consecutive 162 game season that they played. They are 68 and 67 and 86. Yeah, 67 and 86. So it's just they just haven't done what they need to do to win the close games. So let's expand that a little bit. Let's go to the pitching side. What are things that the Rangers can do better on the pitching side to close the gap? Well, again, let's look at the Seattle series. Let's look at Seattle and the Rangers head up. The Rangers have the 3rd highest walk rate in baseball among pitching staffs, and their starting rotation has the highest walk rate in baseball among starting rotations. The Mariners don't give up walks. They have the 9th best walk rate of any pitching staff in baseball. They do not beat themselves. Their offense, particularly without Julio Rodriguez, who missed the game last night and has been on the IL for the past 5 days, is basically non-existent. They are stumbling to a playoff berth, but they are probably going to end up with a playoff berth. But the bottom line is, there may be nights when they can't beat you, but they do not beat themselves. They do not give you free runners. They do not give you extra outs. And because of it, they have a chance to win more often than they lose. It's simple. I go a little bit deeper into the pitching staffs, though. I think it's a great jumping off point, right? Because Seattle's starting rotation features Robbie Ray, a premium dollar free agent signing of this past offseason. Luis Castillo, who was a trade acquisition in July when the Rangers were still interested in adding to their rotation. Somebody Seattle used some of their minor league equity to go out and get, that the Rangers wanted, who just signed a 5-year extension, and so will be here for the next 5 years. And then George Kirby and Logan Gilbert. I should say Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, because Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, what they have in common, both first-round picks for the Mariners in 2018, 2019. They also had a first-round pick who was a pitcher, Emerson Hancock, who's coming up in the system in 2020. My point here is they've got a homegrown and fairly inexpensive nucleus to the rotation. Finished it out with one premium dollar free agent, one trade and extension. And until the Rangers can develop some of their own pitching, this is the uphill battle they face. The Rangers used their first round picks, as you all know, in 2021 and 2022 on pitchers, on Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker. And the hope is that those guys will be the equal at the start and certainly better long term than Gilbert and Kirby have been. But my question that I'd like to get answered is that certainly appeared to be a 3-year process for Gilbert and Kirby to really take their spot in the Mariners rotation. Can the Rangers effectively, how can the Rangers convince me or convince fans, I guess, that it won't take any less than 3 years for Leiter and Rocker to also take that spot? And I bring this up because if you're looking at a 3-year process, Leiter was a first-round pick in 21, so you're looking at bare minimum 21, 22, 23. You're looking at 2024, maybe 2025 before Leiter and Rocker really excel in the rotation. And if that's the case, that's certainly not in line with what Chris Young's vision for 2023 is. He expects to contend in 2023. He feels like the lineup is certainly contention worthy. But there's a lot of work to do on the pitching staff. John Gray was a nice addition. Martin Perez has been a bargain. But you can't say that there has been any homegrown pitcher who has made a case for a spot in the rotation in 2023. Dane Dunning had 150 innings, but he seemed to take a step backwards from last year, and now he's done for the year with hip labrum surgery. Do not know whether or not he will be ready for the start of spring training. The anticipation is that if everything goes well, he should be, but you don't really get a good feel on hip surgeries right away. I think the surgery went as the Rangers expected, so there's nothing more traumatic in there. Certainly can't say that while Cole Reagans did move up the minor league system this year and really pitched himself back into prospect mode, don't know that his handful of starts at the big league level have given you a lot of confidence that he's going to grab a rotation spot next year and hold on to it. Glenn Otto, same thing. Then you look at the minor leagues, AJ Alexy has gone backwards. So has Cole Winn. Alexi's now a reliever, not even a starter. And so then you get to the guys like Leiter, Rocker, second-round pick Owen White, who's been the best pitcher in the system this year. Mason Englert, fourth-round pick from Forney in 2018, who's over some injuries. Maybe those guys, maybe Englert and White are guys who surprise you a little bit and kind of move into the rotation next year and accelerate this. But the only other option the Rangers have if they want to contend is, and this is something you will probably hear from me here in print, on Twitter, anywhere else over the next couple of months, I think it's time for the Rangers to spend irresponsibly. And by that, I mean, they're going to have to pay premium dollars for free agent pitching on the market. They have no other choice. I'm not using, if I'm the Rangers, I think you're in a position here where you have made progress and where there are good things coming. And if you want to be a team with long-term sustainability as a contender, what you want to do is you want to hold on to your pieces this year, and you want to use what you have at your disposal. And what they should have at their disposal is money. It is time for, well, Ray Davis and Neil Liebman stepped up last year with a $500 million investment on position players. They're going to have to do something similar on pitchers this offseason. And that means it's going to have to take this Rangers payroll to close to, if not over, $200 million. That's something that I think that, ownership would have to gulp about a lot. I think it's something they would not really be excited about. But let me see if I can make this argument to you guys as if you were Ray Davis. If you spend $150 million to $170 million on a payroll next year, every dollar, if let me step back. Let's say you spend a $200 million, have a $200 million payroll next year, 205, 210. Probably overpaid by $30 million for some players on that roster. So it's $30 million that you're out with potentially not the best deal that could potentially be won in place. If you have a $150 to a $170 million payroll, then I think what you're throwing out the window is $150 million to $170 million, because this team as constructed, without premier starting pitching adding to it, is going to be trailing both the Astros and Seattle for the foreseeable future. And your best case scenario now, all of a sudden, is that you're playing for one of the final two wild card spots, which means you will be playing 3 playoff games on the road if you even make it there. So if I'm the Rangers, I'm thinking real hard about how much money I've got to invest, and that it is time to do that, because you took a big step forward last year, and the only way to do that again, while you get your minor league system to a point where it is producing a regular pipeline of contributing starting pitchers, is to spend again, give them more time to develop, and create more of a wave behind them. Do that, and you might just see a team that goes off on a 5 to 7 year run, maybe even longer, of real contention. And I think that with everything in place now, with fans able to go to events in Arlington with no restrictions, I don't want to say the pandemic is over, as the president said, but let's face it, we're living our lives again in general terms. The Rangers are drawing lots of people to lots of events. They're creating lots of extra revenue streams like they wanted to. They've got a brand new stadium. They have all the pieces in place to drive the economic engine that they need to create to reach sustainability. Once they reach sustainability, maybe some of those dollars get scaled back a little bit. But even if they don't, the Rangers should have more than enough to compete with the top 5 or 6 payrolls in the major leagues. Market should support it. The facility should support it. And the Rangers have reason to make that investment. So the next step is really, this is the time of year when management starts talking about payroll and budgets for different departments. Time to take a step up to yet another level for payroll, for pitching. Otherwise, we'll be back here next year talking about how pitching and defense eluded the Rangers, and so did a playoff berth for a 7th consecutive season. So for this week, that's it. We'll be back on either next week or right after the season with a season wrap-up, because there's so many highlights to get to. I did not at the outset ask you to please subscribe to the channel if you are not already subscribed. Please like the video, basically because when I go to therapy, I can tell my therapist that I got a lot of thumbs ups. Gives me some affirmation. And please tell your friends about it, because there's nothing that livens up a party like playing This Week in Rangers Baseball, y'all, for everybody to watch. How can you not love it, right? Me in a t-shirt, unshaven, bad lighting, wobbling around, speaker kind of coming out of my head, It is the stuff that is must-see TV. If Netflix had it, they would not be stopping their binging program. Okay, let's be real. So until then, everybody, so long. This is good video.